Hi everyone, it's only the lonely again. I know that I put up a post that I was in hospital today, which I was, and they need to see me again later this week, and I need to go back to the other department next Monday. So um, I'm in pain, put it that way. I'm in terrible pain at the moment, and I have been for a week. Anyway, I was going to do two murders. I was going to do two murders. I'm only going to do one, unfortunately, because I couldn't find my file on the other one, what I wanted to do. But I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to do one murder. I've got pictures to show as well at half time. And I'll be showing them. I don't know whether I don't know whether to do the murder in the second half or the first half. I'll just see how it goes. I'll just see how it goes. I can't move. Oh, yeah, I was prodded and poked. I was in a terrible state. I really was in a terrible state. And the nurse had hold of my hands, and she was just squeezed them because as they were poking, pain was unmerciful. But anyway, still here. As I said, I've got to go back. I don't know what day the surgeon said I need to see you this week. I'll send for you when I've got free time, when I've got a few hours free time. I went, I've got to see you next Monday. I'm back, and I'll tomorrow. I really am to thank everybody because I just said from York to hospital and whatever, as I was sitting there waiting, and the next loads of people, and I mean loads, wish me all the best. Anyway, I'm going to do people that you don't know. I'm going to do some people that you don't know. You've never heard of a couple of Liverpool people. And as I said, I'm going to do a murder, a good murder. Is that okay? And anyway, I just wanted to thank Gap Painting Services for sponsoring the Frank Carlyle show. These are brilliant lads, absolutely brilliant. The the time saved, so they're fully experienced. They're not only that, they're fully insured. And if you're an NHS worker, I wonder if I could qualify for that. If you're an NHS worker, you get fantastic discounts, you really do. And if you're an OAP, again, fantastic discounts. So if you need something doing, and especially with Christmas coming up as well, just ask for these lads. We put the things up, to get in touch with them. I'm sorry about this. Okay. If there's anyone out there, just press the like button. Even if you pressed it last week, just press it, please, to get the algorithm. Mark Kennish says, evening, Frank. Sorry to hear you ended up in hospital. Hope all is well. Thinking of you. Thank you, Mark. Hope you feel much better soon. Looking forward to the show as always. Thank you, Mark. Um, Lads and dad detectives. I like that. Hello, hello, Frank. Lee Brady here. Hope you're getting better. Yes, yeah. Let's hope. Uh, thank you, Lee. Lynn Ellis, evening, Frank. Hope you're well. Thank you so much, Lynn. Daz Reynolds. All right, Frank. Hope you are well today. Thank you, Daz. All the way from America, then, by the way. All the way from America. I'll just go through these now and start talking about real things that you should know about, actually. Do you have any painkillers or anything, Frank? If you need any, give us a shout. I have got them, but I'm terrified to take them because I'm taking so many pills. I'll rattle. I'll just have to grin and bear it for this time as well. I just have, I just have to. But thank you, Lee. You're a good man. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hope you're okay, says Lynn Ellis. Thank you, Lynn. Oh, there's this lovely fella, Andy Gamble. Hi, Frank. Sorry to hear you was in hospital. Glad you're okay and on air tonight. You need anything, you know exactly where I am. My mate, take care, Mr. Lee. I don't want to get emotional, just say thank you so much, Andy. Thank you. Mutterstad. That's Mothertown, isn't it? Mothertown, is it? Right. Evening, Frank. It's Jay Kismet. Thank you, Jay. I hope you feel better soon, bro. Try drinking some hot milk with turmeric. Yeah, funny enough, a nurse said that to me today about turmeric. And she said, don't drink vodka. I said, I don't drink vodka. That's what she said. Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much, mate. Good to see you out of hospital, Frank, says Snapey. Thank you, Steve. Shane McGowan. Evening with a pint and a thumbs up. That's fine, Frank. One murder is fine by me, says Mark Kennis. You just do what you can, don't do too much. Cheers, man. Oh, look at that. Fantastic. Press the like button, people. Isn't that lovely? Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think people press the like button, like the likes of last week, but you've got to press it every week if they like the content. Oh, Wendy Ellison. Get better soon, Frank. Best wishes from Ellie's. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you. I don't know whether people realise this, but the name Wendy actually came from Captain Hook. Was it Captain Hook or his nemesis? Who's his nemesis? Peter Pan. Peter Pan it was. The name Wendy. Because no one had ever heard of it until that book came out and people just started to call it. It's a lovely name, actually. Nice and gentle. Mutterstadt bist sie Deutsch. So that's Mothertown. Yeah, Dutch. Yeah. Steve. Glad you didn't come up with any big, long German things. Frank, I take 36 a day, a few pills, yo. I'll do that. I'll do that. Thank you. And there's a fella who rang me up today, Steve Evans. Even Frank, glad you made it back out of Stalag 17. Yeah, the torture began. I'm not reading that. From J.K. Kismet. No way. Barry Mason. Hi, Frank. Hope your show goes well, mate. Much love to you and all the best. Thank you so much, Barry. Charlie Wood. Good evening, Frank. Hope you're feeling better. Thank you. So, Stad is city in English. I thought it was a town. Well, it makes no difference. Any day. Oh, so I'm not German speaking. Anyway, love our Mondays, gang. Forget to say thanks to our boy wonder, Jason. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Look at this. Thank you, Andy Gamble. Thank you, mate. Andy's the sponsor of the show. Hey, Frank, get yourself fixed up, buddy. Earl Jean Kirk, old friend of mine. First time I ever seen him, I was in Hanover Street. I'd just been on Merseyside, and I went over to. I thought it was Rudolph. I really did the imaging. We had little dreadlocks and things. Went over. He could have easily have said, put on an accent. Yeah, I am Ruth. How are you? He could have easily. I would have fell for it. Oh, fantastic. Great fella. Thank you so much. Earl, mate, thank you. Really appreciate it. Hope your lad's well as well. Well in college, university now. Frank and all the listeners, good to see you all and smiling, says Karen. Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Frank, I loved the video of you on YouTube when you did the big talk at the concert at St. George's Hall. I think it was just after the Capital of Culture. I don't know whether it was during or after. I'm not quite so sure, to be honest. Yeah, was he in the courtroom then? Just realised it's Jay Kismet. It's Snippy. Thanks for making me laugh. Thanks for making me laugh, you fellas. And he just replies, yeah, laughs, Snippy. Yeah, man, it's Jay Kismet. Hope you're well, brother, says Stephen, to him, not to me. And LG and Kirkham, you sound like an actor. Fab name, love it. It's you can imagine starring Brad Pitt, George Clooney, LG and Kirkham as the baddie. I'm sorry if you see me wincing, it's just because I move. Right, I'm going to get onto this. These are people you've never heard of. And I want to talk about a certain lad. Absolutely brilliant, this fella. And he's one of the luckiest men on the planet. I'll tell you for why. And it's about the submarine that was made. I've just got an answer to this. I'm awfully sorry. Andy Gamble says, hi, Frank. Oh, here's your opinion. What's your take on the BBC? Billy Butler, etc. Now Linda Mack. P.S. Sat here with my dad, who also passes on his best wishes. Thank you. Thank you. I bet your dad did, mate. What a man. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Right, so I've got to do this. Right, so this fella, I'll just talk about what had happened first. And there was a submarine, and it was actually made in Camelot. And it was called the HMS Sickle. And when you think about submarines and whatever, don't forget that they have to have trials. They'd have to have trials. So what had happened on the 17th of August, 1942, it was on these 2 days trial, that's all. 2-day trial, right? And if you think about went on proud, done all the things, necessary things and whatever. And 2 days before the 6th of June, 1944, what do you think was happening then? What do you think? Well, I'll tell you. It was D-Day. D-Day. And the submarine sickle on the 4th of June, 1944, operations in the Aegean Sea. Because, say, like, you have France here. Oh, I got France there, right? And you go around, don't you, the Med. And you've got the Aegean Sea, you've got the Med, and the Med. Then you go up, and you've got the Aegean, where the Greeks are. Now, don't forget Greece. So they were surrounding them. The Allies were surrounding the Germans, especially around Western Europe. So he was surrounded. And he was on board. He was on board the sickle. And he was engaged in a gun battle with 2 German gunboats because they surfaced. 2 members, able seaman Richard Blake, and able seaman D.J. Mackay, were told to man the deck on the gun, right, on the big gun, and came under heavy fire from the Germans, the sickle. Seaman Blake was hit and wounded by shrapnel. So you can imagine the pain he was in, hit by shrapnel. And he went into the sea. He was swept overboard as well at the same time. So he was in the sea, the Aegean. And don't forget the sharks are down there, and he's pouring in blood. And he remained underwater for as long as possible to stave off the gunboats, because he didn't want to be captured by the Germans, because they just went looking for him, searchlights and everything, because they seen him going overboard. Whether they thought that he was dead or not, I just don't know. I just don't know. Anyway, the sickle, the Germans actually captured him. They seen him, got him in. Don't forget he was terribly wounded with shrapnel. And the sickle died and carried on with the war. And they could not afford. They've got Blake now, so the submarine just disappeared, gone out of sight. Obviously, it went under on a way. And Blake had actually spent 2 hours in the water. 2 hours. Wounded. Anyway, Blake was secured in chains after he was captured. He was secured in chains until he was transferred to land. Now, he's already wounded, right? And they actually put him in chains. They put him in chains, which was unfortunate for him. Because how could anyone run away or try to escape if you're wounded like that, full of shrapnel? It's just crackers. It really is crackers. Anyway, what has happened? Anyway, the boat that he was on was actually attacked by Allied aircraft. They were shooting. He was on board. Wounded, if you can imagine that. Anyway, he got onto the Germans, they got him on land, put him on a train, and sent to Berlin. So you wonder why he sent him to Berlin. Obviously, interrogation by the Gestapo. We all know what the Gestapo were like, but they were very nice people, to be honest. And while he was on the train, the ordinary German passengers who was just on the train, seen that he was a British sailor, and they wanted to kill him. And he's sitting there wounded, bloodied and everything. They wanted to kill him. But anyway, the guards were there, don't touch him. If you know what I mean. Might have got a few digs in at him, unfortunately. And funny enough, Blake actually met the soldier who had shot him while he was on their day. Anyway, Blake was treated by the surgeons, and he removed 32 pieces of shrapnel. And the surgeon, these are doctors, you know me, and I'm talking about ordinary surgeons. I'm not talking about these surgeons that like to mingle us, I'm not talking about people like him. These were just ordinary surgeons who operated. And he every piece of shrapnel he took, he put them in there like a bag or something, and he gave them to Richard Blake as souvenirs. Now, when he was interrogated, he kept him in solitary for 6 weeks. 6 weeks for refusing to name his sub. He refused 6 weeks in solitary confinement and still recovering from shrapnel wounds in his body. So he never ever gave away what sub he was on, which is absolutely brilliant. And he was transferred to a prisoner of war camp, and it was Marlag Nord at Westerminke near Bremen. Why didn't they just say Bremen? Should have just said Bremen. Gosh, Snape or J. Kismet. This German stuff. Anyway, 12 days after being swept overboard, HMS Sickle. Now get onto this. HMS became the last British sub to be lost in the Mediterranean war, because it went from the Aegean right through to the Med. And it's believed to have hit a mine in Katara Channel S, Greece, and there was no survivors. No survivors. So you've got to, you just got to think. You've just got to think about how lucky. Is it kismet? I think it is. I think it was fate, definitely. Kismet, fate. And don't forget, when you see the other fella, what's his name, Nelson, on deck, the big paintings and everything. And for years, people really thought that he said, "Kiss me, Hardy." Well, he never said that on deck. He said, "Kismet, Hardy, Kismet." That's what it is. Fate. Because a Liverpool captain told him not to wear his big medals. That big thing you'd always see him painting, the portraits of him, that big medal. And the snipers got him. Yes, snipers. Snipers. Now, when you think about Richard Blake, he could have easily have drowned, couldn't he? He could have been killed instead of getting a shrapnel with the Germans. They could have easily have killed him, and could have been killed on the U-boat as attacked by American planes. Friendly fire. Our American friends. So right, but they're shooting these big bullets at you. So it's friendly fire if one hits you. So that's it. That's the wonderful. I actually, honestly, I interviewed him. And I want to talk quickly about this fella, and that's a VC. And the VC went to a Liverpool lad, who worked in Old Wall Street, and his family was in the cotton business. So he worked in Old Wall Street, Albany House. In fact, he worked Albany House. And when the war broke out, he enlisted. And this is the First World War, not the second, the first. So he enlisted. And I tell you what, school he went to the collegiate. He went to the collegiate in Shore Street, or on Shore Street. So anyway, he enlisted, and what they suggested to was that well, that's right. He was at I've got to get this right. He was at SFX, St. Francis Xavier's, on Salisbury Street, which is now Hope University. I used to work at Hope there. And then he went to Stonyhurst College in Ribble Valley. That's where he entered his education. And he was an apprentice cotton broker at the Albany and Old Wall Street, as I said. Anyway, on the 4th of August 1914, we all know what happens. War was declared, and Corey was commissioned into the Pioneer Corps. And he became a second lieutenant. But you've got to understand, people, about the Pioneer Corps. If you look at an old, say, cowboy film, you see them crossing from the east to the west, the Wild West. And they were the pioneers. They were finding new land and making it, into something. So they were pioneers. This is what the Pioneer Corps did in the First World War. And they hardly ever got recognised. Did the Pioneer Corps. And what they used to do, they used to go over from one trench to another so that the Allies could advance, and they dug the trenches. And they always dealt in barbed wire. These lads. Incredible. And they always got fired upon, actually. While they were doing these trenches, they done everything so that, the lads, the British lads, could go forward. And don't forget, they also had to repair the roads as well, from shellfire. Big, so that our particular vehicles could get over them and go through these roads. So they had to do that as well. And also what they did, besides digging the trenches, the ammunition. These are all under heavy fire, by the way, all under heavy fire. So they had to bring up the ammunition. And a few times, some ammunition things were hit. Unfortunately, they were killed. They were killed. So it was a very dangerous job that the Pioneer Corps did. And on the 8th of August, 1916, Arrowhead Copse near Julemont. And Julemont's a very famous place, actually. Very famous in World War I, especially for the British. Sorry there. Anyway, this is on the Somme. Julemont was on the Somme. And as you know, in 1916, that was the first Battle of the Somme. And it was raging, terrible, heavy fire from both sides. It was shocking. This was 24/7, 24/7, non-stop. They had a little lull once at Christmas, but that soon stopped. So Curie and his men advanced into no man's land under heavy enemy fire to dig trenches for the advancement of our troops. So he went there. And what had happened was, a bit more comfy now. What had happened was, they had to dig a trench of 40 yards. Think about that. 40 yards, and they were deep. So these lads were well built, besides very brave, under heavy fire all the time. And they had to dig this trench 40 yards long. Think about that for a moment. And a German shell actually hit the ammunition that was put in place there. So they ferried up the ammunition and it was hit. And chaos ensued. If you could imagine, bullets and everything else flying everywhere. Besides, I'm talking about being hit, the ammunition that the lad to the trench, after digging the trench, and the shell, it's a German shell. So all these things were flying everywhere. Not only that, but the Germans were also firing as well. So what he did, Curie, get onto this. What he did to see his men, none of them ran away, by the way. They never went back to the British lines. But they didn't know what to do because it was just mad, chaotic because of the ammunition going up. So what he did, we're there on one side of the parapet, the trench, what they just dug. He came up on the other side, he got up. And he was actually telling the lads not to panic, get in the trenches. You're safer there. And he was running up and down. The only thing he had was a pistol. And the commanding officer was also wounded. So he was running around doing this, telling everyone, bringing calm to them. And anyway, he was aware of the German advancement, because the Germans, they just got up out of their trenches and started moving towards the ammunition dump, or the trench that the ammunition was in. And they thought that they had them. But what Curie did was unbelievable. It was unbelievable what he did. He had his gun, so he had a pistol, and went forward to meet them. And he was just shooting at them. I can't use my right hand. I can't use my right hand because it killed me. So he was just shooting at them. And the Germans thought that he was a loony. So what they did, the Germans retreated back to their lines. They retreated back to. Anyway, he got back safely, and he was awarded the Victoria Cross for his bravery, the Victoria Cross. And he asked, could he not resign his commission, but go somewhere else? And he said, I've always been interested in flying. So he joined the flying corps, carries on until the end of the war. But it doesn't stop there, because when he's demobbed, when the war was over and everybody went home happy and whatever, they just went home. And he went home, and unfortunately his business collapsed and he was out of work. The Victoria Cross holder, out of work. And what he decided to do, he opens a chip shop in Brunswick Road. And people who live on this side of the water, know where Brunswick Road is. Funny enough, I passed there on Monday, and I went to the doctor's. So he opens a chippy, and he used to have his hanging above, where the chips were flying. He used to have it there. And young kids used to say, what's that medal for? And he used to show them. But he was a very modest man. He just said, they just gave it to me as a souvenir. Think about that, as a souvenir. And when war broke out, Second World War, he enlisted. And he was actually at D-Day, Juno Beach. He went with the British troops, and they landed at Juno Beach. He survived the war, carries on with his chippy, which is great. Carries on with his chippy. And unfortunately, in 1957, I think, he died. He actually died. George Gabriel Curie. He actually died. And he's buried up in Crosby, St. Peter's and Paul, is it? That's where he's buried. There was a commemoration to him years ago, and I was asked to go up. I couldn't go. And I've always felt bad about that. But the point is, I was ill. I had the flu, never forget it. So I couldn't go. How about that then? George Gabriel Curie. And there's one other fella actually. And this fella, I'll be doing the murder after the. It's a great case actually. It's a brilliant case. I'll be doing the murder after 9 o'clock. Okay. And this fella's name was William Edward Pennington. Jason Pennington. No relation though. And what had happened in the First World War, he was born in 1894. And he was an apprentice to Rimmers, making violins. Rimmers was very, very well known at the time as violin makers. So anyway, he became apprentice there. And he volunteered, obviously, for the Liverpool Scottish, Chivas, WVC, captain in the Liverpool Scottish. And also he was in the Liverpool Scottish and also a captain. And he was a war hero. Was the greatest of all, Sherlock Holmes, Basil Rathbone. And he was actually, well, anyway, he was sent over to France. And in 1915, he was in the Chivas unit. Now, don't forget what Noel Chivas was. Noel Chivas, besides being a WVC, he was also a surgeon. A surgeon. And where he used to work, doing the surgery work, was down at the Liverpool Hospital, the Royal, not the Royal, the I forget the name of it, but it's down the South End. You had the Northern Hospital here, and you had they never called it the South End Hospital, but anyway, it was down there. That's where it was. So he joined, and he was a stretcher bearer. And what he thought, he said, this is nuts, this. You can't see, trenches weren't just straight. They weren't just straight. They were zigzagged. And it was terrible, absolutely awful to get stretches. So what they used to, the stretchers couldn't get through them because they were very awkward. If you had a patient on, and a wounded patient, so if you're hitting sides of a trench, you can imagine, and it caused deaths as well because of the heavy wounded. You were lying on the stretcher. So they used to have to get on the parapet, just like Gabriel Curie, and run along that, the ambulance lads, the stretcher bearers. So anyway, as Julemon, now this is the 30th of July, 1960. 30th of July. And it resonates with me because of another thing. I'll tell you about it later. So Pennington used to bring back loads and loads of lads, whether they were wounded or unfortunately dead, used to bring them back in no man's land under heavy fire. And this particular time, he was stretcher bearing for Noel Chivas. Now, as I said, on the 30th of July, 1916, as Julemon, Noel Chivas was awarded a Victoria Cross. A Victoria Cross. A VC. Because he was bringing back the wounded in no man's land under heavy fire. under heavy fire. Think about that. And Pennington actually brought 19 men, wounded men, back because he'd rather bring a wounded man than a dead man, dead soldier. So he brought a wounded soldier back with a stretcher. With a stretcher. And if you're wounded, you can imagine the pain. You can imagine the pain that these lads on the stretcher were suffering, being banged from pillar to post, going through trenches and whatever. Anyway, and he was commended. I'm going to read a quote. Here. For conspicuous gallantry in action, he tended the wounded in the open and searched no man's land at night under very heavy fire. Show great courage and devotion to his duty. Think about that. Great courage under heavy fire, bringing loads of lads back. And he was promoted to corporal. Then he was wounded in the hand. And he was sent home. But that didn't deter him, because he actually joined the Flying Corps as well. But what happened with this? What happened with this was that he said, this is no good, this, for the stretcher bearers. It's no good. So what he did, he designed a stretcher. That was like half of the full stretcher that they used. And it was quick, it was easy, and they could get the wounded to the station, which means the medical station, quicker, a lot quicker, rather than the zigzag with a long particular stretcher. So we designed that. And what's about anyway, what had happened was, at the end of the war, he served in the Flying Corps, and he became a missionary. Yeah, became a little missionary all the way over there in Africa. And he started making violins again. So he turned to God, and he became, as I said, he went to Africa as a mission, back to making violins. And in 1971 or 72, he made this violin, a special violin, and he actually presented it to Prince Charles's inauguration to be the Prince of Wales at Carnarvon Castle. Think about that. I don't know what happened to the thing. I don't know what's happened to the thing. Anyway, I'll just go through a few, before we have a break, I'll just go through a few. I think they're all talking to themselves. Let's just, there is some. Let's just see this. Let's just see, I don't know where, right, let's see. Vase of Flowers says, my dad not getting in the army on the grounds of eyesight when he was a teenager, a piece of coal was thrown at him as a kid. I'll tell you who else never got in the army with myopic issues, and that was Harry Kipling. And unfortunately, he asked his dad, he said, get me into the army. Please, Dad, get me into the army. So his dad said, okay. And he got him into the army. Because everybody was failing him. Anyway, he got into the army. He had bad eyesight. They had to advance. They had to advance to the German lines. And there was heavy shelling, and you can imagine all the smoke, from the shells, from the gunfire, and everywhere. Anyway, they got down, and then when they got up, he didn't know where he was. He was confused, so he started to walk to the lines, but it wasn't the Allied lines, it wasn't the British lines. It was the German lines, and unfortunately, he was dead. And Rudyard never, ever forgave himself for that. I think he only had the one son. Never, ever forgave himself for that. And he wrote a little poem, a 2-line poem. And don't forget that there was dads who were signing that their lads, their sons, who were 14 or 15 years of age, was older, that they were 16 and older. So they were signing because the army didn't believe that he was like 16 or older. These are kids. So they just signed, this paper saying that. And you know what happened. Anyway, he never ever forgave himself. He never forgave himself, Rudyard Kipling. And he wrote a 2-line poem. If any question why we died, tell them because our fathers lied. Think about that. If any question why we died, tell them because our fathers lied. Powerful. One of the most powerful poems ever written. And it's a 2-liner. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. But listen, I'm going to have a little break, and I'll show you some pictures. How's that?
The Port of Liverpool building was the first to be erected of the Three Graces in 1907, and the eminent architect was Sir Arnold Thornley. Looking at this stunning building, you could be forgiven if you thought that you were in Rome or Florence, Italy. Yet, we are here on Liverpool's famous waterfront and the New World Heritage Site. Here in the reception area, we have the Italian terrazzo with its wonderful mosaic compass. The Port of Liverpool building is mainly used for offices, and you can imagine the thousands of feet crossing over. Yet, very few know of the terrazzo and the compass's history. Italian migrants came over to Liverpool and plied their trade to make enough money for passage to America. That is how the building and others are graced with such fine Italian work as the terrazzo. Do we know the names of any of these talented men who laid the fabulous floor? You won't find them on a roll of honour, but you will find them tucked away in the terrazzo floor itself. Directly above the compass, you will find the central magnificent dome. Behind this unassuming door is a perfect example of Liverpool's architecture, unseen. It's a bit of a climb, as you can imagine, but when we get to the top, it's well worth it, because through this door is another gem which you will see on Liverpool's architecture unseen. We are now in the inner dome, and I'm sorry to keep it in the dark, because a matter of 60 years ago, we had a little Wales war, and it's been blacked out ever since. If you're scared of heights, look away now. Luckily enough, through restoration, the dome will be back to its former glory, and that means lighter shades like pastels, cream, where from ground level and even right up here in the heart of the dome, you'll be able to see the wonderful friezes and covings. During the Second World War, and in particular the May Blitz of 1941, the vibrations of the bombs damaged the structure of the central dome. The iron girders that you can see were cemented and bricked in after the war to stabilise the dome itself in case it toppled over. Earlier we had seen the mark left by the terrazzo floor layers, and just like in modern times, our builders also left their mark. This is the pinnacle of the Port of Liverpool building, a part of Liverpool's architecture unseen. This is the cantilever staircase with its stained glass windows of every country throughout the old British Empire. Everything in the building has a nautical theme, right down to the lamp standards, as you can see, the dolphins. So the next time you walk through the Port of Liverpool, you'll be able to see some of the wonders for yourself of this magnificent building.
So what do you think of that? Hey, what do you think of that, Frank? Frank, a younger Frank, with loads of energy, climbing up the stairs, comes in that now. And it was great anyway, you know, to do that particular thing because the port of Liverpool is absolutely phenomenal. It really is. And you have those little, what the terrazzo floor layers did, get tiny pieces of mosaic and cemented them in, their names. Incredible what they did. Obviously, it was unknown to the people who commissioned the terrazzo, the mosaic. And it was only the Italians who could do it, actually, which is phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. Great piece. Great piece. Loved that. Loved doing that. I really did. I'm going to show you some pictures. Let me show you before I do the. I love this. I love that. Look at that. That's the Albion House, known as the Streaky Bacon Building, that belonged to the White Star. You know, the famous Titanic. Think about that. Just have a look at that. Just be careful and have a look. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I'm going to show you a couple more here. Just bear with me. Can I just go through a few? Can I just get through here? A couple of comments, please. The Vase of Flowers says, my paternal nan's father and his brother were mustard gas in the trenches of World War One. Made it home, but died from the mustard gas effects soon after. And he was just one of many, unfortunately. He was just one of many who died. Let's see. Just bear with me. Bear with me. I'm sure I've seen. I'm awfully sorry about this. Sorry. As a flower says, if my dad had gone into the army, he'd never have met me mum, probably. How I view this. No. I'm sure Stephen Slater sent him all these little words. But then again, a lot of people, again, it's fate, isn't it? It's fate. Even if Frank, hope you're feeling a bit better, says Denny and Juice after your Aussie visit. Hello, everyone. Hope all is well. Thank you, Den. Thank you. Feeling a little bit. Interesting stuff. It's not too long ago in history. No, it certainly isn't. Monty Connor. Hello from Atlanta. Hope all is going well. Thank you, Monty. Thank you so much. Enjoying this, Frank, as always, says Mark Kinney. And JK says, thank you for the facts, bro. And he also carries on. I hope the York show went well. It certainly did, actually. I got a standing ovation, which was nice. And Den says, tell a juice that is, hey Frank, how's your jet? Jared, don't know. I haven't seen him, unfortunately. It's one of those things. Frank, tell you what, I love that part you can go through in Water Street into James Street Station, the The part where it feels like you're going back in time. Yes. Yes, indeed, Mark Kiddish. Vase of Flowers, Frank Carlyle. I probably wouldn't exist, Frank, if my dad went into the army. A mere piece of coal played the role of fate. Surrender pity. Yes. It depends what mood I'm in. And again he says, this is stunning footage. Thank you. Top video, says JK. Snapey says, in wartime, the human race excels in both technological and emotional achievements. The poetry synonymous with human sacrifice induces the scribes to exceed their usual lyrical flair. But sad, because if you look at the first opening lines of a poem by Wilfred Owen, what passing bells for these who die as cattle. Think about that. And it's called Anthem for Doomed Youth. That's the poem. What passing bells for these who die as cattle. And that's going back to Wilfred Owen, the soldier poet. Our first city, if you want to blend in and don't come from Liverpool, it's as decent a place as any I ventured into when leaving Liverpool. That's great, that. Thank you, Vase of Flowers. Funny enough, I got a lift, not a lift, I got a taxi up to the Aussie today, this morning. Not that I can sleep late, but anyway, what had happened was, he was an Ethiopian, this lad, and he just loves Liverpool. He loves Liverpool. He's been here 10 years. And you know what? Jumps in the cab and bang, we're away. He said, I know the place, because I had to go to this certain department. He dropped off. I would have been lost completely and utterly. Because there's different departments now, you know, with the extension of 80, with the extension. And he brought me right outside. So it's what you're saying. It's what you're saying, Stephen Snape. And Vase of Flowers, the Pogues, the leaving of Liverpool. And JK says, what a view. Thank you. I'll have to carry on now. Let's see this. Frank, is that the reason why the Port of Liverpool building has a green dome for years? Because it was damaged during the war? Always wondered that. No, it was just, that was a clear dome, by the way. And everything goes green, unfortunately, everything. Statues, you name it, goes green if it's not cared for. But they were blacked out during the war, and now you can go in if you can get in now, because I think they've stopped people from going in. I used to bring millions in. Anyway, if you go in and have a look now, you know what? You see the dome in all its splendour, as it was before the war. Great footage. That's a very good point by J. Kismet here. When you look down from the top, everything is precise and identical, the way perfect starting 11 should look like. Someone had to get some football in. Vase of Flowers. The worst anti-Scouse blabbering I've been subjected to was from people that have never visited Liverpool. Get that all the time, I've always said that. But I put them straight last week at York. Put them straight. I always remember, I forget where it was, on holiday. And there was two lads from, two butchers they were, from Middlesbrough. And they said, what do you do for a living? Just asked me. And I just told them. They didn't believe me. You can't be a lecturer with an accent. Absolutely amazing. I'm not bothered. I get there. And another time, the last time I was in Italy, I was sitting at a table. I was outside, and it was this hotel, but there was no one about. There was two people, couples sitting there. And I was speaking Italian to this waiter, and this woman went, "Where are you from? Because I heard you asking in English, what you wanted." And I went, "Oh," I said, "I'm from Liverpool." Guess what the response was by her husband? "What's your handbag?" Anyway, I'm going to carry on with these. I'm sorry about this, people. But I love that. I really do. I really love that. Really do. That picture. And this, I could never forgive, even going back then to 1974, when this building was knocked down, demolished, and a big hole for until Liverpool 1 started building. And that's the Sailors' Home. Look at it. The history behind that is unbelievable. Unbelievable. The history behind that. John Cunningham's Sailors' Home. And you could imagine every mobilisation from the likes of every war that the Brits were involved in. Those lads went from there, out of there, onto ships. Even soldiers during the wars, then from there, they stayed there as well, not just sailors. And they went out of there to the trenches in the First World War. Second World War, you name it. The Boer War. The Boer War. Fighting the Boers down in South Africa. The old march through there. And that is always gets me this. That's the custom house. That's the 5th custom house. And it was built in 1828. And unfortunately, it was bombed. But it wasn't bombed to such an extent. It was built by John Foster Jr. And it opened up in 1828. And it was bigger than St. George's Hall. Same stone, same everything. And besides those columns there, it had other columns, 32 and all. Beautiful building. And an incendiary went through the dome, as you can see there, it just went right through the dome. Gutted 2/3 of it, but the others was all right. And any public building or public structure, I'll go back to the other one there, just bear with me. That one. The overhead railway there. I think I've got another one. Any public building or structure, you get compensated. So they all decided to pull them down. The council, people, preservationists were saying, stop this. This is terrible. So they took. That's another John Foster Jr. building. And that was St. George's Church. Have a guess where that was? Have a guess. Anyone, just have a guess. Let me know. Sorry about this. So try and have a guess where this was. This church. Any comments? How to carry on? Pat Hutchins. Lord Street. Mark Hirsch. Where Victoria's Monument is now. Pat Hutchinson, yeah, you know, you're technically right because it was the top of Lord Street. And in fact, Mark Hirsch got it spot on because it's where Victoria's Monument is today. And they pulled it down in 1896. And the excuse, which is absurd, because you can't just knock churches, especially in those days. You can't just knock churches down. And what has happened was, he said, the priest or the vicar, whatever he was, blasphemed in the pulpit. And he decided to get rid of it. Unbelievable. Incredible. Looks just sick, doesn't it? Right, let's see. And then I'll go on to the next one. If I might. Yeah. I'll go on to it. I'll go on to the next one. And there's the Custom House again. But look at that. Isn't that superb? That's right on. That's the pump house there. That's the pub, the pump house. The big chimney, obviously. And just have a look at it. I'm just looking at it now, Lee. Let's see. Yeah, I've got that. This photo is interesting, Frank. I'd love to know where the crossroad was an old door. I'll tell you next week. I've actually got that. I've actually got that. I never went on Messenger. I've got some other messages there after today. Anyway, wow, great pictures, says Pat Hutchinson. Thanks, Frank, says Lee Brady. Wow, great pictures, Pat. Thanks, Frank, says. I'll just pull more, then I'll do the murder. Look at that. That's Liverpool Central Station, taken from the 60s. Look at the architecture. Just look at it. Right next to the Lyceum, which they wanted to knock down, by the way, in the 80s. I fervently went and said, no, you can't do that. But look at the architecture, Romanesque. Just imagine that still being there today, all cleaned up like St. George's Hall. And what's there today? Useless, absolutely useless. Trying to make shopping arcades, and they just knocked down some of the great buildings. I'm going to show you one more, and that's of the overhead railway. One of my favourite pictures of all time. And that's down by the landing stage, right facing the Port of Liverpool building and the Cunard building. Fantastic picture. And if you notice, if you look carefully, you see the fella on the right in a straw boater, obviously middle class, young man, could be at university, could be working as an apprentice in a stock exchange or whatever. And you see the working class lads, you noticed on the right, they'd most probably be dockers, because it was known as the dockers umbrella. And they knocked that down. 1957. And as Mark Simon says, civic vandalism at its worst. Yes, I've always said it was criminal, legal criminality it was, if you know what I mean. Any picture of the original St. John's Market, Frank? Yeah, I showed them a few weeks ago. What I'll do, I'll definitely show you them next week, along with that particular map that Lee Brady wanted to see. That part was near St. Yes, you're right, wasn't it, Frank? Overhead railway, yeah, by the Port of Liverpool building. Yeah, spot on. Right, so I'm going to do this measure, if you don't mind. Put that for you, Mark. It's a fantastic picture. I've got it on my phone here. I'll send it through to Jason. I'll actually send it through, and he'll put it up for you next week. He's got his little grandson with him, and Jason would have just put it up, to be honest. He would have just put it up. I'll just like this. And Vasa Flower says, the overhead railway was a wonder of engineering in its time. Absolutely. First electrified overhead railway in the entire world. The very first electrified escalator in the world. Think about it. And Stephen says, Lee, that overhead railway was before its time. He's answered to Vasa Flowers. Right, so I'm going to do this, people. Let's see that. Davy Lewis being knocked down was a disgrace as well. See. Yes. Mark Simons. Yes. Yeah. Spot on. Right, so I'm going to do this murder. And it's called The Man from the Pool. Now, William Wallace, he was married to a girl named Julia in 1913. And he lived in Wolverton Street, Anfield. And he was an assurance, you know, there's insurance and assurance. You know, assurance that whatever you go in for, you will get, if you know what I mean. And Ten of Juice. Love this story. She's great, isn't she? Love it. Love this story, Ten of Juice. Well, anyway. So, he lives at Wolverhampton Street, as I said, and Julia becomes, after the marriage, not long after, I don't know, but she became frail, unfortunately. She became frail and she couldn't really go out. And he did everything for her. Everything. He did for Julia. As you know, for your wife who was frail, he used to make the fire of a morning, he used to bring her down, put her on the chair in front of the fire, at the cold scuttle there, so that she could put coal on, and make her breakfast. Then he went off to work. So as I said, she was only 50 actually when she became. She was only 50. And anyway, on January 1931, there was a phone call. And his hobby was playing chess. And there was a phone call to the club where he belonged. Mr. Qualtrough. And Mr. Qualtrough asked if he was there, William Wallace. And it was taken by Gladys Hartley and the club captain, Samuel Beattie. And Qualtrough was a mystery person, and he wasn't known at the club. No one knew, because they were asked, who's this Qualtrough? So all he wants is Wallace to arrange a policy for his niece. And Wallace, this Qualtrough gave the Captain Beattie his address to go to find him, and talk business, this Qualtrough. So he gave the address, the address as 25 Menlove Gardens East. So Wallace leaves his home at 10 a.m. at Clubmoor for his rounds in Clubmoor, because he has a round there. And he leaves 10 o'clock. And he arrives back home that evening at 6:05, 6:05 precisely. And he has tea with Julia and leaves at 6:45 and catches a train. A tram, not a train. He catches a tram, number 4 tram, to Menlove East. But the conductor said, listen, you took the wrong one. You'd have to get the 7 tram to get up there where that is. So he said, okay, gets up. And he catches the number 7. So he gets off, the conductor puts him off. And proceeds to ask people, where's Menlove Gardens East? Menlove Garden, and people were saying, oh, I don't know. And people lived around there, they were saying, oh, I don't know. That's interesting. Wendy Ellison. That's an interesting. I'm glad of this story. It's this story because every time we go down Menlo Avenue, Jeff says there was a murder down there. The man from the Prue. I actually met Jonathan Price, but I'll tell you about that when I finish this. Okay, I'll tell you about it when I met him. And anyway, he goes down, looking around, asking everyone. He even goes to a post office. And he said, hey, mate, you know, and he looked at it, he gave him a fare. He said, there's nothing there. He said, I'm shutting at 8 o'clock. And he said, ask a policeman. He might know. He said, but I've never heard of Menlo East, Menlo Gardens East. So he said, okay. And what did he do? He asked a policeman. And no one, no. They couldn't point him in the right direction. The policeman didn't know. And also, he decides to go to Menlo Gardens West. 25 Menlo Gardens West. So he goes there. He knocks on the door. And a Mrs. Martha opened the door. Mrs. Martha, who lived at 25 Menlo Gardens West. And she said, Mr. Qualtrough doesn't live here, I'm sorry. I live here, and I've never heard of Mr. Qualtrough. So he said, okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. See, James, who he asked, told him to go to the post office, as I mentioned. I forgot to mention that. So he told him to go to the post office. I thought it was the post office who said, go and ask a police. Well, he did, actually. He said, go and ask a police. And he said, I've already done. And they told me to come here. But anyway, that was it. So, in the end, he said, this is fruitless. I'm going to go home. So, he went home to Wolverton Street. And what has happened there, Wallace explains to Mr. and Mrs. Johnston about the fruitless drive back at Wolverton Street. They were just walking up the street. You know, you just pass remarks to each other, don't you? Good evening or whatever. Remember, you used to say good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Don't say it now. Fortunately, that tradition's gone. So he said, I've just been on a fruitless journey. And he asked him, he said, do you know of Menlo Gardens East? And he went, no, not really. So he said, okay. Anyway, he tried to get in the house. Tried to get in his house. And he said, the door, he said, I went around the back, couldn't get in there. And the door, you know, it's locked from the inside. It's locked from the inside. And that's unusual. So anyway, he said, just hang on there. He said, I'm going to go around the back just in case Julia opens the door. I'll go around the back again, see if I can gain entrance. So anyway, he's banging away, you know, on the door, and you know what I said. And he finds it's ajar. It's as though there was something stopping from opening the door. Anyway, he gets it. Finally gets it. For the second time, finally gets it. And the unfortunate thing is, as he goes in to the place, which was, he goes around, goes in the house, and 3 minutes later, he comes running out. Come and see come and see. She's been killed. That's what he shouted at, this couple. Come and see, she's been killed. Because he unlocked the bolt and everything else. He unlocked the bolt. That's how he opened the door to the couple. And the unfortunate thing is that when he opened the door to them, he brought them in. He said, have a look. And Julia's body was found where he always put her of a morning. Always put her of a morning. He always put her in the parlour. And that's where she was found. And she was beaten heavily with a poker or a blunt instrument. And they counted out the poker because the poker was still in the thing. I forget what you call them. That's another tradition that's gone out the window, hasn't it? Remember, you used to have, I forget what you call them. There used to be a poker there, a little brush, and, a little shovel, so whatever they were. And that's all gone now. So anyway, there was money scattered around the floor, but they were all coins, mostly coins. And he picked everything up. Don't forget, this woman was badly beaten and her skull was actually open. And her brains, unfortunately, was on the wall and on the fireplace. I've got pictures there. And £4 was missing from the cash box. So we picked all the coins up and said, there's £4 missing. £4 missing. Well, there was a Mrs. Johnson who picked up the money, gave it to the coins. He put it in the box and he said £4 missing. How did he know? So anyway, at the time there was a spate of robberies around there. And Chief Superintendent Moore takes charge of the investigation. And as they're investigating, she goes and stays, Wallace goes and stays with his sister in Oak Road. And police are searching Wallace's home. And then finally Wallace was arrested for his wife's murder. Obviously, it was St. George's Hall on the 22nd of April, 1931. Don't forget this murder happened in the January. Crown, we had a Mr. Edward George Emmety, Mr. Edward George Kennedy. And for the Crown, as I said, Emmety, QC, by the way, KC, King's Counsel. And for the defence, a Mr. Roland Oliver, King's Counsel. And a Mr. Justice Wright presides. Big judge, right, big judge. And I'll come to Roland Oliver later on. So what was the Crown's evidence? Here's the Crown's evidence. A stranger calling the club only 400 yards from. Why didn't he just go there to the house? And he rang the chess club, this particular person. But they're saying it's him. That's who's doing all this. It's him. It's Wallace. And he could have written a letter as well. He could have easily have written a letter, posted, I don't want to do this thing for my niece, 21st birthday. Or even leave a note at the house. Why didn't he leave a note? Why did he ring the chess club? And there was a curious way for alibi. All these alibis. Don't forget, you had PC James. You had the post office fella, manager. You had passers-by. You had a conductor. You know, where is this Menlo Gardens East? And the locked door. And the cash box. And Julia's ailment. That was the Crown's evidence. So you've got to look at, you know, these alibis. You've got to look and say, well, you know, you would ask people. You would ask people, wouldn't you, to where such a place is. I've asked loads of times. That's loads of times where a place says, oh, yeah, you must have done it as well. Where's such a place? Where is such a place? And they tell you, or they can't tell you. Simple as that. So anyway, that was the Crown's argument about this horrific murder. And it was horrific. Let's put it that way. Shocking, so to speak. So what's the defence's thing? And the defense is that Wallace was convicted of murder. He was actually convicted of murder. Because the defense was saying, you would ask people, you would go to the post office, you would ask a particular passerby or passers-by, bus conductor, tram conductor, anyone, where Menlo Gardens East, 25 Menlo Gardens East. So that quashed that. And what about the cash box? How did he know? This is what they were going on. I knew that there was £4 missing when Mrs. Johnson picked up the coins. So how come £4 was missing? Easy, because there were 4 £1 notes. Yet the prosecution are saying, oh, he's on it because he knew exactly how much. But they never told the jury. And the jury weren't told. So the defense was absolutely horrendous. So anyway, Wallace appealed his conviction and it was overturned by the Court of Appeal because of the weight of evidence. And Wallace was freed. And it's the first time in British legal history that a murder conviction was overturned. He was sentenced to hang, by the way. So you've got, who did the murder? Who did the murder? Wallace protested his innocence until his death in February 1933 at Clatterbridge Hospital. And you know what Clatterbridge Hospital is famous for. Crime experts, you'll know one of them, was J.H. Gort, and the other fella was Edgar Lustgarten. And they were convinced that the murderer was a Gordon Parry. Parry was an established, Parry, it was established, worked with Wallace at the Peru, but was fired. Worked out, so he was fired for some illegality. What do you think he was doing? I think he was stealing the money. Never came out. And he was also acquainted with him working with Wallace. He also, Wallace used to invite him up for a cup of tea and that, whatever, if he was doing his rounds. There, this Gordon Parry fella. Come out and have a cup of tea. So we got to know Julia. So anyway, let's have a look at the defense. Let's have a look at the defense. Parry, he had no alibi for that murder on the night of the murder. Had his car washed. Mechanic found blood-stained gloves on the back seat. Think about that. He had a violent temper when people were afraid of him. He used to just shout. He was violent, just a violent man. And yet, he was married. Wallace named Parry to the police because they said to him, well, if you haven't done it, who do you think's done it? And this is at the beginning. He said, well, there's a fella who's got a violent temper, knows where I live. My wife would let him in because she knows him. And that was Gordon. And at the time, Parry was so desperate for money. And as I said before, there was a spate of burglaries, but they couldn't pinpoint anyone who was doing it. But nevertheless, Parry was a free man, but he fled the area of Liverpool after that verdict. And Parry actually fled Liverpool. He ran off. He just ran off. Never to be seen again. And Wallace had a vital witness that wasn't called. And it was a young boy, Peter. Now, don't forget, the murder, as they said, was committed between 6:30 and 7 o'clock, or 6 o'clock and 7:30. That's what was happening. So this Peter Allen, this young paper boy, milk boy, he called at Wallace's house. And his dad said to him, because, you're talking January, it goes very dark, and we only had those like gas lamps, which was dark anyway. And he said, I want you home by 7. He said, well, shall I just collect the money on Dad? Yeah. That'll do, he said, as long as you get home. He said, I will, Dad. And the mechanic as well, he wasn't called. He wasn't called. And 2 women who were standing in the entry, there were wide entries then, they were standing in the entry just talking, neighbours. And they seen a fella run over to the car. He looked up the entry, and there's the car there. And he looked up and seen this fella with an iron in his hand. And what do you think that iron was? It wasn't a golf club. Sorry there. Absolutely not. But anyway, Wallace had a vital witness not called, as I said, and it was that lad, and he knocked at 7 o'clock. Julia was alive. Because when she opened the door, she said, you'll have to come back and see Mr. Wallace. So he said, okay, I've got to go home now at 7 o'clock. I've got to be home. And he went. He wasn't called. And when they found the car, the mechanic said there wasn't a starting handle, and yet those 2 women seen that fella run with the starting handle. And he said that it was heavily stained with something, could have been blood. And he started the car up with it, but it was missing. And he sped off. So you've got to ask yourself, who did the murder? Because as I said, he was set free. And those investigative reporters said it was definitely Gordon Parry. It was him who done the murders. And Parry came over, I think it was in the 70s, something, early 70s, mid 70s. And he was going to give an interview to, I always forget this fella's name, Terry Linane for Radio City. And he was going to confess the murder. But unfortunately, a week before he was supposed to give the interview, he died. So it wasn't really solved, the murder of Julia Wallace. And Mr. Wallace died in 1933. 1933. And it's just sad, really, that someone was murdered and they just arrested it was him. No blood was found on him. No blood at all was found on him. Not a single drop of blood. And yet there was blood all over the place. Not only that, Six couldn't come up with anything. Nothing. They had nothing. They looked at the poker. Now, if he'd done that murder, he'd be covered in blood. Covered. Not a drop of blood was on him. And when you look at the way it was up there, you know, you're talking like 1931. 1931. And that's the poor judicial system, if you like. They just arrested him, convicted him, but he was freed because the evidence was all circumstantial and full of lies anyway. Full of lies. They didn't call that witness, that young milk boy, they didn't call him whatsoever. They just didn't call him. And that's the way it is. That's the way it is. They just didn't call him at all. And that man, I got a picture of him. Yeah, I've got a picture of him. I hope you can see this. I'll just move this. Hang on. I hope you can see this, people. This is a picture of him. Okay, by the way, this is before, during, and after. And don't forget, he was only like 53 or something. So, and there's a picture. I hope you can see this. Before, let me get it right. Before and after. To your right, as you look at it, that's him during the murder trial, just before the murder trial. There he is in the middle at the murder trial, and there he is again after the murder trial. Look at them pictures. See how the man aged. See how he aged. Just aged. And the shock of it apparently brought on the cancer. He couldn't even grieve for his wife, who he looked after, because she let that fella in, Paddy. Why lock the door? Because as the little lad said, when he knocked on the door, she just opened it. And then she closed it. He had no bolts being put or anything whatsoever. And he reckoned that Paddy was sitting in the house, because she opened it just halfway. And she said, "Come back tomorrow to see Mr. Wallace." So he said, okay. And that young milk boy, he was actually a pilot in the Second World War, and he was killed. And that's the way it is. A very controversial case where that man, he might as well have been hanged. Didn't do it. He aged rapidly. The shock of being found guilty. Do you remember when I said about Roland Oliver? All his life, he used to be a defence. Well, you've seen him in that defence. And he always said, there's no smoke without fire if anyone was in the dock. And the next murder, I I've got Anthony Brown on with me next week, the first hour or the second. I'm not quite so sure, but this particular murder, I'll look for it. I couldn't find it, to be honest. So I'll look for it and I'll get it and I'll do it. Very, very controversial. Unbelievably so. Unbelievably so. So anyway, that's me done. I just want to thank Gap Painting Services. Gap Painting Services for sponsoring the Frank Carlyle Show. And there it is, domestic, commercial painting and decorating time-served tradesman. And it was established in 2004. Clean, reliable, NHS and OAP discounts, and there's the number. If you ever want to know the number, just ask me, or just ask Jason. Just ask Jason. I'm awfully sure. I think I fell asleep, for a few seconds there. I haven't slept for 3 days. The pain. And then a juice says, poor man, it took a toll on him. Great that, Frank. Thank you, Dan. And vase of flowers, implemented about the head with an implement, a motor car starter. There you go. Great history show. Thank you, Frank. Thank you. Thank you. Wendy, enjoy tonight. Good night, Frank. Take care of yourself and sleep. Yes, I'll try. I can't sleep. Thanks, Frank. You take care. Night, everyone, says Tender Juice. Nancy Gamble. Andy is the sponsor of the Frank Carlyle Show. Gap Painting Services. Honestly, they're brilliant. Get them if you need anything. Just get them in. And they're so worth it. So anyway, I've got to thank also Jason Pennington, the producer. He's great, Jason. And I'm back tomorrow on I hope I do get some rest and take some painkillers tomorrow night. And there we go. Broadcast with Frank and guest. Regular Tuesday and Thursday, 8 o'clock. Follow for specials, pre-match and instant reaction. Thank you. And I'll see you all tomorrow. I'll just finish up. Great show, Frank. Take care. Thanks, Jason, mate. What a guy, says Andy Gamble. Yes, this was an interesting peek back into the not too distant past. A good story told well. I think I fell asleep. I know it is. I was just and then all about. I'm sorry about that. I haven't slept for days. I haven't slept. It's getting me down. Things go on in life and you get depressed. Anyway, that's it. That's me for the night. See you all tomorrow night on the podcast with Marios Manzos and George Scott, the Lost Shankly Boy. And as someone said, the Lost Shankly Boy isn't lost anymore because Frank found him. Crazy. And as Vase of Flowers says, it'll be on tomorrow night. Get some kit and some hot milk and turmeric down to your brow. Oh, that's it. It's J.K. Kismet. Says that. And Rip Van Winkle calls me. Vase of flowers. Yeah, I'll try and get that turmeric. Thank you. Thank you all. And today I put a post, so I was already saying about where I was. And I got loads of comments, and I've got to put a post up tomorrow. I never put posts up, as you know, ever. I've got to thank everyone. And you. George Owens, good perspective, context and points on a fascinating case, and well presented, Frankie. Thank you. Thank you. And it's just for me to say good night, everybody. See you all you history buffs, next Monday with that murder. I'll find that murder and I'll get it. And I'll do it. It'll be good. And more pics and another clip as well of Frank somewhere, the younger Frank. And that's Vase of Flowers. Yes, George showed some nice pictures of him and his wife at a Scottish hotel when he was a player. And one from recently says Vase of Flowers. That's George, by the way, George Scott. It's just for me to say thank you all. See you next week, you history buffs, and I'll see you tomorrow night. See you tomorrow night on the Liverpool podcast. Thank you. Thank you.